I'm Tom Lowenstein, here today to talk to you about programming the Ascent with RF technology remote control for honeycomb shades. You'll learn two methods to operate your honeycomb shades: infrared and radio frequency. Choose the method that works best for you. Infrared, also referred to as IR, requires aiming or line of sight, like a flashlight. The remote control must be pointed at the sensor on the shade in order to control the shade. The shades are controlled individually via one-button operation. The remote has automatically been preset to infrared, which is the default mode. Radio frequency, also referred to as RF, requires no aiming of the remote, so it operates in the same manner as a garage door opener. It will control shades individually or in groups with two-button operation. This video provides additional information on programming and use of your Ascent with RF technology remote control. Let's get started with the remote. The front side of the remote contains the following: a sensor eye for communication with the shade, indicator light, which illuminates red for infrared and green for radio control, infrared channel selector switch for changing the infrared channel, group buttons 1 through 4, which operates all shades assigned to each specific group when using radio control mode, all group button, which operates all shades at one time when using radio control mode, open and close button. This operates the shade in the selected directions. The back side of the remote control contains the following: recessed setup button for programming the remote. Master reset button will reset the remote back to infrared only, and the battery compartment. To install the batteries, remove the back cover of the remote control. Install the batteries into the remote. Orient the batteries as shown in the diagram located inside the battery compartment. The shade contains a manual control button located in the end cap of the shade. The manual control button is used for operating the shade without the remote. The sensor eye for the infrared is located in the manual control button. When using infrared, point the remote at the manual control button. In its default mode, the Ascent with RF technology remote sends an infrared signal to the shade. Aim the remote at the sensor eye to operate the shade. To raise the shade, press and release the button labeled Open. The light at the top of the remote will illuminate red. Press and release the button labeled Close to stop the shade at any point. To lower the shade, press and release the button labeled Close. Again, the light will illuminate red. To stop the shade, press and release the Open button. Radio frequency gives you the ability to control individual or multiple shades at the same time, even if they're in another room. To use radio frequency, each shade must first be assigned to a group. Any shade can be a member of more than one group. There are 4 possible groups that can be assigned. A group can be a single shade or multiple shades. Before you begin, operate a single shade using infrared to make sure that you are communicating with only one shade and that it is working properly. It will be necessary to position the remote as close as possible to the sensor eye when assigning groups, preferably 2 to 3 inches away. In order to begin the process of setting groups, begin with a straightened paperclip. Press and release the recessed setup button on the back of the remote. The indicator light on the front of the remote flashes green for approximately 30 seconds. While the indicator light is flashing green, assign the chosen shade a group by selecting the desired number. The group buttons are labeled 1 through 4. Point the remote at the sensor eye of the shade and press the Open button to add it to the group, or the Close button to remove it from the group. The shade will move slightly or jog to indicate it has been added or removed from a group. Repeat this process for additional shades. Exit the setup mode by pressing and releasing the setup button on the back of the remote control a second time. The remote saves any changes made and the indicator light stops flashing. The remote will go idle if not engaged for 8 seconds. After going idle, the remote will return to infrared mode automatically. To return to RF, simply select a group and operate the remote. Press the group button assigned to the shade or shades you want to operate. We have assigned this shade to Group 1. Press the Open button to open the shade, or the Close button to close the shade. To stop a shade while it's moving, press the assigned group button, then press the opposite Open or Close button. To operate all shades assigned to the remote, press the All button before pressing the Open or Close button. Operational distances using radio frequency may vary depending on common household construction differences. Setting an intermediate stop allows the shade to be preset so it will automatically stop at a customized position each time it's raised or lowered. Before setting the intermediate stop position, open and close the shade fully. Adjust the shade to the desired height. Press and hold the All button for 6 seconds. The indicator light on the front of the remote starts flashing green. Point the remote at the selected shade sensor eye and press the Open button. The shade moves slightly or jogs to indicate that the intermediate stop has been added. Press the All button again to save the stop. The indicator light stops flashing. One intermediate stop can be set for each shade. If you set a new intermediate stop, it replaces the previous stop. To continue the operation of the shade that has been stopped at a preset intermediate position, simply press the appropriate group button, then the Open or Close button, based on the desired direction of the shade. To clear the intermediate stops, open the shade fully. Point the remote at the shade sensor eye. Press and hold the Open button for 10 seconds. The light at the top of the remote will illuminate red. The shade will move slightly or jog. All intermediate stop settings will be cleared. Programming a duplicate remote is quick and easy. 1. Label the original remote. 2. Remove the battery cover from the second or backup remote. 3. With a paperclip, press and hold the Master Reset button on the backup remote for approximately 10 seconds. The indicator light on the front of the remote starts flashing red. 4. Place the original remote within 18 inches of the backup remote and press the Open button on the original. The indicator light on the backup remote stops flashing. 5. Replace the battery cover on the backup remote. It is now ready for use. Any changes made to either remote will take effect on the other remotes. You have now successfully completed programming your Ascent with RF technology remote control for honeycomb shades. Thank you for your time.